Happy Saturday morning, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Gainbridge Fieldhouse here in Indianapolis, following Purdue's 69-61 win over Penn State at the Big Ten Tournament. It is 1:50 in the morning. Purdue plays again in about an hour and 45 minutes. None of you are going to watch this. This is going to be a very brief rap video. This is going to be more like a TikTok than an actual video. This is going to be like one of those Facebook short things that get you to click, and then there's no resolution to whatever's going on in this stupid video. Thank you to the Purdue Union Club Hotel and the Boiler Up Bar for your continued support of these silly little endeavors we do, and we will dive right into it. 5 minutes, no more, no less. This I promise you. Brandon Newman, perhaps you heard, he played tonight, played well, played a lot. He produced, he was efficient. He was arguably the difference in this game, him making all 4 of his shots in the time he got in the game after he'd not played a meaningful minute for Purdue since, I believe, January 10th. The climate we live in nowadays is not the most harmonious between folks on social media, on the internet, and the people they're watching on television, the people playing in the games that some of you folks are so invested in. The fact that everyone has money on the game nowadays has only made this even more of a powder keg. That is sort of the climate these college kids exist in nowadays, and I feel like it's becoming more and more toxic by the year. I tell you this to set up my next point, my first point, I should say. That's not a point. That's a preface to a point. It's not even a half point. It's just the preface to the point. It's the, what's it called in a book where somebody else writes it? The prologue, not the epilogue. It doesn't matter. It's 1:52 in the morning. I mentioned all of that toxicity to point out that I thought this was a really neat moment in the arena, because everybody here was rooting for Brandon Newman. When he made that first shot, this place lit up. This is probably the rare occasion where the opposing coach was probably even rooting for Brandon Newman. This arena, obviously a very Purdue-heavy fan base, which might not have been the case if this were in Illinois or a Michigan State or certainly in Indiana. But the fact that Penn State, typically doesn't bring a lot of people to these sorts of things made this even more of a Purdue sort of home game. And I thought when Brandon Newman made that first shot, this place came alive. Not quite the way Mackey Arena would, but you could sense the energy in this building from the Purdue people because everybody was rooting for Brandon Newman here. It was a really kind of neat human moment when he made the second shot. Even more when he came out of the game at one point, it was tangible, and it was no coincidence that the shots he made and the important minutes he played came during the run in the first half that really changed this game, swung the game in Purdue's favor after the ugly start. I think it was but Purdue made 9 shots in a row to change the complexion of this game, and you can't tell me that Brandon Newman making that first shot didn't account for some of the energy Purdue parlayed into that run. That was a really neat moment, just as a human being, in addition to a sports observer in an arena full of basketball stakeholders here. It was a very human moment because you could sense thousands of people rooting for this one young man out there. I don't know what happens now from here on out. Obviously, Brandon Newman should be teeming with confidence right now after the way he kind of rose to the occasion. People talk about when you're in situations like that, you always have to be ready. But it's so often empty because you understand the reality of your situation. You understand you're not playing for a reason, and sometimes those reasons don't change. But this was the epitome of a player staying ready because he didn't just make a couple shots. I thought he played well. He was good defensively. He made good decisions, things like that. Not that he's a primary ball handler or anything like that, but I think he did everything right. I thought he was good defensively. I thought it was a favorable matchup for him, but he was good. He was good defensively nonetheless. And there are reasons he has not been in the rotation for some time for Purdue. He will be probably the first one to tell you some of that stuff. Is sometimes he jumps over the fight. Sometimes, as coaches say, sometimes he struggles to handle his responsibilities defensively. Sometimes he doesn't always play to his strengths offensively. Matt Painter made a comment the other day about they have a lot of guys who break the offensive structure. I think when you have an improviser like Jaden Ivey, you have to eat some of that. But I think that Brandon Newman maybe might have fit into that a little bit. There were reasons that, on top of what Matt Painter's talked about over and over again about how he was much more effective as a player, as a starter who can play through some mistakes and things like that and really work himself into a rhythm, and he's more of a play finisher than a playmaker. Some of those things don't really project to 5 minutes a game or 7 minutes a game or 10 minutes a game. And if you want to get him more than 10 minutes a game, well, that's either at the expense of Jaden Ivey, who's an All-American, or Sasha Stefanovic, who you're going to understand how important he is when he's gone next year, if you don't already. Really, really big moment for Brandon Newman, and not just in his season, but in his career. So that's obviously the first thing to talk about from this game. Just a really neat story, a really neat basketball story, a really neat human story more than anything. Second point, Jaden Ivey, obviously, I don't know if he played great down the stretch of the regular season, but I thought he was really, really good tonight. Obviously made some really big baskets, really galvanized Purdue's transition game again, which, is something that kind of dried up late in the Big Ten season. That's a credit to Big Ten opponents more than anything. They don't let Purdue get out in the open floor as readily as, Purdue has at times when it's been really successful offensively, but he was really good pushing the ball off defense, pushing the ball off rebounds, generating some steals himself, one of which he scored off that was a rebound at the very end, never mind. But he did have that steal that he wound up going the other way with that he missed, but Ethan Morton cleaned it up. Good minutes from Ethan Morton, too, by the way. Obviously did not play a whole lot in this game, but I thought he really worked hard trying to get Purdue some second chances on the offensive glass, did a good job with that. That putback was really big. That actually might have been the first bucket of Purdue's run, now that I think about it. But obviously thereafter, the run was fueled by Jaden Ivey and then obviously by Brandon Newman also contributing a few shots to that. I thought Jaden Ivey was really good. He had a couple of turnovers, but obviously that's the cost of doing business when you have a really aggressive scorer the way Purdue has a really aggressive scorer. You're just going to have to eat some of that. But I thought by and large he did a pretty good job kind of letting things come to him, especially after he came out and then came back in. I thought that really kind of settled him down from what I saw live. Made good decisions, did all the right things, I think. What the hell does this say? I can't read my notes. Defense. Penn State missed a couple of open looks down the stretch of the game, a couple of three-pointers that might have changed things a little bit. But I thought Purdue was really good defensively when they had to be really good defensively. And I think this was a tricky matchup for Purdue in the sense that Jalen Pickett is such a problem in terms of his ability to post people up. Purdue has small point guards. Obviously, Isaiah Thompson is small by any measure. Eric Hunter, skinny, not exactly no Joe Eastern from a physical perspective. Pickett, Penn State really wanted to play through Pickett in the post, the way Wisconsin the game before played through Brad Davison in the post. But I thought, Purdue kind of solved some things late in the game. I thought they did a really good job defensively. Again, Penn State missed some shots. That has to be pointed out here. But I thought for Purdue to close this game out defensively, was a very positive thing moving into the postseason, because there's going to come those games where you have to get a big stop at the end of the game, and you have to get the rebound. Purdue's gotten big stops before at the end of games, but they've not always gotten the rebound. They've also, at times, not gotten those big stops, too, and ended up losing on crap. But I think for Purdue to be able to really grind this out and win a hard-fought game to open the postseason, theoretically should give you confidence when that time comes again. I thought they did a great job on Seth Lundy again. I thought John Harrah's productivity was all because Purdue was susceptible against the dribble. I think that was a credit to Penn State as much as anything. Not that Purdue is ever going to be confused with the best dribble penetration defense in college basketball, but the size of Penn State's guards and the matchup problems that they can create simply because Jalen Pickett uses his body so well. And for a four-man, Seth Lundy is so big, but also has so many guard skills. And because Miles Dredd is kind of a guard, but is built like Ray Lewis. I mean, this is a little bit of a different sort of looking team. And I thought, Purdue had some matchup challenges there. But again, for them to close this game out defensively with the stops they got was a really big deal. I've gone way over my 5 minutes here. Purdue, Michigan State later today, actually. In the semifinals, Purdue owes Michigan State one, because when you look back now at the totality of the season, that's the game you really want to bang your head against the wall over, because you gave that game away. You turned the ball over too much. You gave up too many plays at the end of shot clocks. That's probably more Michigan State's doing than Purdue's doing, but that's the one you really should have had. You lost on crap at Rutgers. You lost on crap at Wisconsin. You gave away the Indiana game, the first Indiana game. It's the Michigan State game that is really, really the one that really hurt Purdue here. So you owe Michigan State one. Not that this is about settling vendettas or anything like that, but Purdue needs positive momentum moving into the NCAA tournament. Winning is the best way to do that. Some people say that, you don't want to, you've got your seeding, you don't need to do anything in the Big Ten tournament. Take the extra day of rest. No. Purdue, the way it closed the regular season, needs positive momentum going into the NCAA tournament. You got a chance to win a championship. Why not go out and win a championship? I'm not saying Purdue's a lock. They are the highest-seeded team left here. But that guarantees them nothing. Michigan State's going to be a bear tomorrow. They're going to be very difficult to score on. Purdue has to take care of the basketball, but there's no reason to think Purdue can't win that game tomorrow. There's no reason to think Purdue shouldn't win that game tomorrow. Or later today, I'm sorry. So that's what I got. That was a longer than I anticipated, rambling, meandering summary of what happened tonight. Again, it is now 2:02 in the morning, so I'm not in my most lucid state at the moment. But what better way to finish out this basketball season than with more 9 p.m. tip-offs? Better yet, let's do it before a 3:30 game the next day, so that everything I stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning to do is completely irrelevant like 5 hours later. This is the business we have chosen. Thank you to the Premium Club Hotel. Thank you to the Boiler Up Bar. The combination thereof, I should say. This is Brian Neubert from GoldenBlack.com from Gainbridge Fieldhouse following Purdue's 69-61 win over Penn State at the Big Ten Tournament. I will talk to you guys again in like 45 minutes after Purdue plays Michigan State. Thanks, everybody.